What's going on? Welcome back to Off the Schneid. Today we're going to take a look at the Detroit Lions heading into the 2022 NFL Draft. Free agency is pretty much wrapped up for the most part. Trades and such are trickling in here and there, but for the most part, teams are shifting their focus towards the NFL Draft. Obviously, a team like this, especially second overall selection, the final pick in the first round, and then second pick in the second round. Tons of picks for this team, tons of quality picks. They got 5 inside the top 100. So this team's looking to build towards the future and hopefully being a contender very soon, which is a definite possibility for this franchise, but we'll see how it shakes out at the quarterback position. Obviously, like I said, you can see the team needs right above my head here, and then the draft capital that they have above that. So let's obviously start at the quarterback position like we always do. We got Jared Goff here, who they traded Matt Stafford for. They got a ton of first round picks to come with Jared Goff. Obviously, that's where that 32nd overall comes from. Rams won the Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. I'm sure most Detroit Lions fans are happy for Stafford, to be honest with you. Finally see him get some recognition that he deserves and get those wins, go to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. He deserves it, to be honest. He's a very good quarterback, as every Detroit Lions fan knows. Jared Goff was okay for this team. Obviously, it was a bad team. Everybody knew they were going to be a bad team. There's not a ton of weapons, things like that. It was a tough year, but they have a good offensive line. There was some injuries to Goff, and I think he might have had COVID at one point, but who didn't last year, to be honest. But he comes back, and this is the last year that they really have committed to Jared Goff. They can definitely move on from him after this season. It was kind of a 2-year experiment, see if he is your guy. I think he's 28 years old, if my memory serves me correctly. So, he can be an NFL quarterback, former first overall selection. He can be an NFL quarterback, but, we're going to find out if they're going to stick with him or move on from him after this season. So we'll see what he looks like and what this team looks like, and we'll kind of take it from there. They should have 2 first-round picks next year, and if this is a bad team again, then they're gonna, if they're in the top 5, they're 100% going to take one of those quarterbacks and replace Jared Goff. So we'll see how it works out. Tim Boyle's the backup, I suppose. David Blau, Steven Montez. I wouldn't fault this team if they wanted to draft a quarterback this year as your clear-cut backup. A guy that I've been throwing out there as a backup quarterback for a lot of teams, anyone that needs it, is Jack Cohn. I think he can come in and be a backup quarterback for any NFL team right now and compete. Honestly, with this team, with Jared Goff, I feel like Jack Cohn could potentially compete with him to play some meaningful games this year, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know when you'd have to draft Cohn. Maybe if they traded back on one of those 3rd-round picks, you can get them in the 4th. I don't know, but either way, if they don't take a quarterback at all, I'm okay with that. If you're just conceding being a bad team again, and then you get your quarterback of the future, if they go with wide receiver, that kind of a thing. Actually, we'll get there in a second, but if they build out this roster is what I'm getting at, and complete this roster, and then you slide in a rookie contract, quarterback that's quality, say CJ Stroud or something like that, Bryce Young, whatever it is, and he's your franchise guy, and much like the Bengals did this past season, and then the sky's the limit for your team. We'll see how it works out. Running back position we'll move to DeAndre Swift. He's kind of got to stay healthy. He's kind of got to stay healthy at this point. He's one of the better pass catching backs. He's a 3-down back. I do really like DeAndre Swift, absolutely, but he's better when he's on the field for your team. So he's got to stay healthy this year. Jamal Williams is obviously still there, former Packer. He had a decent year, and he can spell DeAndre Swift if need be, but he can also plug and play as a starter if you need that, if there is another injury to Swift or if he does miss some time or anything. I don't mind if they grab a super late, maybe 6th, 7th round pick for a running back. I don't hate that. It won't hurt their draft grade for me, but I wouldn't call it a need. Craig Reynolds played fairly well in limited action last year, and then Jamar Jefferson was a 7th round pick last year, so they're okay, but I wouldn't be upset if they drafted a late round running back. Move to the tight end position. Obviously, TJ Hawkinson, another guy that's got to stay healthy. He was a little banged up last year, so he's got to get back to playing 17 games for this team. He's probably their most dangerous passing weapon right now. I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and DJ Chark should be good. We'll get to the wide receivers, but TJ Hawkinson, another guy who's better for this team when he's on the field, obviously, but he's got to stay healthy is what I'm kind of getting at. And then they have some other guys they can piece in there: Jared Pinkney, Garrett Griffin, Brock Wright. There's good blocking there. And then I've liked Jared Pinkney, to be honest. He just has never gotten an opportunity. We'll see if he does end up getting that opportunity this year. I highly doubt he does. If they do want to draft a tight end, that's another position that I wouldn't be upset. It wouldn't hurt their draft grade for me, but again, not really particularly in need, as you can see by my list right above me here. Move to the offensive line. I thought that this would be the biggest strength of this team last year. It turns out it was, and it's probably still is the biggest strength on this offense, to be honest. Penei Sewell was their first round pick. He was very good. Vaitai was very good. Ragnow's great. Jonah Jackson played very, very well. He's quality. And then Taylor Decker is a very good left tackle. So there's nothing wrong whatsoever with their starters. I do have O-line as a need here, and it's just O-line. They just need to add some depth. So realistically, it's probably, a college left tackle that can be your swing tackle, and then maybe an interior guy. But, Logan Stenberg hasn't really gotten an opportunity yet. He's a former 4th-round pick. Maybe that's your swing interior guard. But, I just think they're going to need some depth in this draft, and they've got a ton of picks to do it with. So it's not a huge concern, but I would like to see some depth come from this team in the draft. We'll move to the playmakers at the wide receiver position here. Like I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown was very good for this team last year. 4th-round pick. He just walked in and became their top receiver. 90 catches, just under 1,000 yards. And you're hoping he takes another step forward, but he's a very good possession slot receiver. That's something that I think that's going to be settled on this team, which is great. You need to settle some things. Like, as you grow and progress and become a contending team, you have to settle some positions. So that offensive line is settled, tight end is settled, running back is in a pretty good spot, slot receivers settled. Hopefully DJ Chark can be that true X receiver for them that they brought him in to be. It's only a 1-year contract. It's kind of a show me deal, a prove it deal sort of a thing. He comes over from the Jaguars after missing pretty much the whole season. I think he plays like game 3 or something like that, where he broke a bone in his foot, and comes back. Hopefully he's fully healthy. He's a burner. He was a very good receiver, former 1,000-yard receiver. So hopefully he can get back to that, and they can re-sign him, and he can be a guy for this team. I do have wide receiver as a major need, as the number 2 need, you could say. I don't think that Josh Reynolds is bad. I just don't think that he's, he is an NFL receiver, but I don't particularly think he's an NFL starting wide receiver. So I look at that 32, 34th overall. One of those 2 picks, I fully expect to see them draft a wide receiver, depending on who's there. Maybe they end up trading down, or there's somebody else on defense, or, somebody else that they like at that spot. But that's what I expect them to do at one of those 2 draft spots, is to grab a wide receiver that they can plug in as a starter this year. Quintez Cephas played well before he got hurt last year. I think he only played in 5 games, I think it was. He played well, so he's a quality, another quality piece. Khalif Raymond is your kick and punt returner, and just a downfield, hopefully throw the ball over his shoulder for a touchdown kind of guy. And Tom Kennedy, he's still there. Javon McKinley, Trinity Benson. We'll see if those guys can battle it out to make the roster, but I think they need to add basically a difference maker at the end of that first round, early second sort of a thing, and then that kind of finishes off this offense, which actually then becomes not a horrible thing for this team. They had a tough year offensively last year, but with DJ Chark coming in, that offensive line is in a great spot. If they add one more wide receiver, they're giving Jared Goff the best opportunity he's gonna have to succeed. And then if he doesn't run with it, then you know what you got to do from there. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball now. Michael Brockers has had a fantastic career. He's had a fantastic career, and they're probably going to move on from him after this year. but it might be time, in my opinion, to potentially move him inside, as a defensive tackle. He's more than big enough to get the job done there. And you have some other guys that I would like to see get an opportunity, and most likely that second overall selection, whether it's Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson, one of those guys, Tavon Walker, whatever it is, one of those guys is going to be that defensive end where I have it as a need. Honestly, I shouldn't even have it up there because I'm already writing in Sharpie defensive end for second overall. Like, I haven't put the name in yet. Keep an eye out for my mock draft coming out in about a week's time, and you'll see who I have them taking. Whoever goes first, it's going to set the tone for the Lions for second overall there, but it's going to be a defensive end, like 99.9%. It's going to be one of those three guys. And then that's who you put in there for Michael Brockers, kick him inside, and he's likely going to be a backup, to be honest. But again, you're probably moving on from him. He's a quality leader, everything like that. It just kind of is what it is right now. Ali McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike are probably your starters on the inside. Like I said, if you kick Michael Brockers in there, him and John Pinasini are your depth, backup rotational depth guys. Julian Okwara took a step forward last year, former third-round pick, five sacks. Austin Bryant had 4.5, I think. 4.5 sacks for Austin Bryant. So with those two guys taking a step forward, the rookie that you bring in at second overall, Romeo Okwara, is still there. And then Charles Harris led this team in sacks last year. I think you got what you need on the defensive line. I really do. Once they add that guy at second overall, I think you got depth. You got rotational guys. You can kick in Brockers inside, like I said, and then you're pretty much set on your defensive line. Let's move it back to the linebackers. I do have linebacker as a pretty big need. You could maybe move it up over offensive line, but they need that depth on the O-line. It's you might be needing a starter at linebacker. I do like Derek Barnes. I think he can take that step forward and be your starting linebacker this year. Alex Anzalone, he's kind of bounced around a little bit. He's a solid vet. At the very least, he's a solid depth guy and rotational guy. He can definitely play on special teams, things like that. Jared Davis comes back after 1 year stint with the Jets, was injured most of the year, didn't really work out. And he didn't really work out here in his first time around, but we'll see how that kind of shakes out. Again, at the very least, he's a quality depth guy. Maybe if there's a guy that they really, really believe in and they think he's going to be their linebacking leader, play caller, all that kind of stuff, with one of those, that early second, one of those third round picks, more likely. If they see a guy there, then I'm more than happy, or I'm more than fine with them grabbing their guy there and plugging him in as a starter from day one, basically. Let's kick it back to the defensive backs. We'll talk about the safeties first. I believe Will Harris and Tracy Walker led this team in tackles last year, hence why I think that the linebackers a bit of a need for this team. Tracy Walker's very good. I think they brought him back on re-signed him to a deal, and worth it, in my opinion. He's one of the better defensive players on this team last year, and I think he probably will be moving forward, as long as it sits like it does right now, depending on who they get at second overall. But regardless, Will Harris is a quality player, and then Deshaun Elliott comes over from the Baltimore Ravens. He's a quality, strong safety. He can definitely get the job done there. So they're okay for me, and I like Brady Breeze. That's a name I want to shout out right there. I like Brady Breeze. I think he came out of Oregon Duck, and drafted by the Titans. They obviously waived him. Detroit Lions grabbed him up. I think he could potentially be a guy. We'll see. He's going to need to get an opportunity. He's going to need to force his opportunity, and he's going to have to run with it if or when he gets it. But that's a guy that I liked coming out of college. So they're okay at safety, in my opinion. I don't address it whatsoever. You have too many other needs that you need to plug and play. So I don't look at safety personally in this draft at all. Let's talk about the corners now. Jeff Okudah has to get back to where he was as a rookie, but also take a step forward. Same thing, that was with Chase Young in Washington. You got to get back to where you're at. You have to get back to where you were at as a rookie, but also take a step forward from there. He was third overall selection. He has to be the guy. Amani Oruwari is a very good corner. I do like him. He can definitely get the job done. Jerry Jacobs was an undrafted free agent who was a very, very pleasant surprise. I think that he can play. Obviously, he showed it. Afeti Molifonwu, former third-round pick, big body guy. I believe he's 6'4". He's quality. I do like him. Mike Hughes is a former first-round pick, and AJ Parker played well for this team as well last year. So I think they have what they need on the back end of this defense. You know, realistically, like I said, second overall defensive end, you get yourself a linebacker later in the draft, and this defense is pretty much set, and it's actually kind of a strength. It's a decent looking defense, and I think they can get the job done if that second overall pick is a, you know, double-digit sack guy and a difference maker on the defensive line. So yeah, this team is heading in the right direction. It's all just going to be, you know, it all revolves around the entire conversation of the success of the Detroit Lions this year is going to revolve around Jared Goff and whether or not he's your guy. But you're going to know he has, like I said, he has all the opportunity in the world this year if they draft a wide receiver with one of those, you know, 32, 34, which I fully expect them to do. And then, you know, there's no excuses for him not to succeed. He has a great offensive line, great offensive line, decent running backs, good enough to get the job done, good enough weapons to get the job done, and an okay defense. So, you know, there's no excuses for Jared Goff to not succeed, and you're going to know what you got to do after this season, whether he's going to be your guy or you completely move on from him, which you can do with fairly limited dead cap space. So there you go. There's your Detroit Lions. Hope you liked it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, keep an eyes peeled for the mock draft coming out, and hopefully 1 week exactly to the day on the 22nd of April. Obviously, there's 2 picks for the Lions there. Maybe I have them moving, maybe not. I haven't decided yet. Let me know what you think in the comments, but there's your breakdown for the 2022 Detroit Lions.